Hello everyone and welcome to this afternoon session with Gypsy Roma Travellers. Today we're going to be focusing on fighting back against the Police Act, and I've got two brilliant guests, Claire Rice from Gates, Hertfordshire, and John Riley from Gypsy Travellers League organisation. I'm really excited to hear from both of these activists. I've been following them for a while and I actually know Claire as well, so I'm really excited to hear everything that we need to know about getting involved with the fight back against the Police Act. So what we're going to do first is hear a little bit more about Claire and John and the work that they do, and then we're going to get into crunch time, which is the fight back against the Police Act. So without further ado, we're going to go over to Claire first. So Claire, can you let us know a little bit more about yourself and the work that you're doing currently, please?
Yeah, no problem. My name is Claire Rice. I'm a Romany Gypsy. I work for an organisation called Gate Hearts. We are a Gypsy and Traveller empowerment service. I've been an activist for a very long time now. I have a bachelor's in science and master in arts. I went back to university at 40 years old, specifically to help my community. So I do a lot of cultural competency training. I do a lot of activism work, a lot of writing reports. So a lot, and support the community that are working on the ground. So yeah, that's what I get up to.
And John, can you let us know a little bit more about yourself, please, as well?
Myself, 1 second. I'm a traveling man. I'm 32, married, 3 kids. I've set up an organization 2 years ago to help gypsies and travelers. I've come from a life of crime, which I'm trying to change the younger generation, which I've been working alongside. I'm getting a lot of education off Claire and Josie within camping sites. I deal with a lot of mental health issues, which I've set up an 11-side football team. I've been highlighting all these discrimination acts on social media, which I've only put up 10% what I really have, what I've caught the police and what I've caught amongst pubs, and what I've really caught, like, not even just that, against other organizations as well, to be honest. And it's just, it's more shocking than anything else when we have people out there that really want to help and we're not getting the support that we need.
Thank you, John. And Claire, could you tell our guests a little bit more about the Gypsy, Roma and Traveller communities, in particular, like the nomadism and, you know, how long they've actually been in the UK?
Yeah, of course. So Romany Gypsies specifically, our heritage is actually North Indian. We are the same kind of DNA and the same culture as Roma Gypsies. Romany Gypsies first appeared in the legal statute books in the 1500s here in the UK. Our language can be traced back to Sanskrit, and we have sort of lived nomadically since the 1500s. There are many gypsies and travellers that still live nomadically. I'll come on to that in a minute. Irish travellers, I mean, John can obviously give you a little bit more background on his heritage, but my understanding is arguably Irish travellers are the indigenous people of these islands. They are the original Celts. They speak a language called Gammon and Can, and their language can be traced back to Germanic. We are very different cultures, very different people, very different cultures, but we face the same difficulties. We face the same discrimination. We face the same problems, accessing healthcare, education, accessing places to live. Gypsies and travellers live in a multitude of ways. They're the same as every other society, you know. They're a microcosm of any other society. Some live in houses, some still live nomadically on the road, some own their own yards, some live on local authority sites, and they face difficulties in all of these circumstances. So, yeah, that's a brief sort of cultural rundown on who we are and what we are.
Yeah. And John, could you give us, you know, some brief information about Irish travellers and their background as well, please, mate?
Yeah, like Claire said, with Irish and English, we've got the one battles that we're facing, but we've got different ways of life, different ways of talking, just totally different. Which is like with remaining gypsies and other gypsies, but with Gypsy Travel League, I mainly focus on the English and Irish gypsies. because I'm here in the UK. I'm only trying to make a bit of a change.
Yeah.
But with the Irish community, they're very hard to try and get into. They're very hard community to try and see that there is people trying to help them and support them, because everything is a laugh and joke matter. Because only 2 days ago, I tried to do a little bit of a rally for Hayes, Uxbridge, West Drayton, and Useley, where I had councillors coming to help us to not take away the sites, try to build more sites, and actually only 10 travelling people turned up. So,
Oh,
where do you go when you're trying to help these people? Do you understand? When you're going
yeah.
out your way, they're good enough when they want a letter, character reference, or they want a letter to write to the council. But when you need them to stand up for something what's meant to be standing up for, they want to laugh and joke about it.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you, John, for explaining that to us. So, Claire, you've touched on about the discrimination that your communities face. Could you go into more detail on this, please, so that our guests can get an understanding of what's actually taking place currently?
Yeah, of course. I mean, where do you start and where do you end?
Yeah.
I mean, the most common form of discrimination against any Gypsy or traveller, come to that, is refusal of service. That is the most common form of discrimination. Now, when I say refusal of service, I'm not talking, 5 or 6 men at 11 o'clock on a Friday night with a belly full of beer. I'm talking mum, dad, 2 or 3 children going out for Sunday lunch. Now, when you're raised from a child knee high, being told you are not welcome, quite openly, there is no hiding the fact we don't serve travellers in here. They are quite, John's got loads and loads of videos saying this. Can you imagine, seriously, just take a deep breath and reflect. Can you imagine any other BAME community who is a protected minority under the Equality Act being told you cannot come in here and eat Sunday lunch because of your gender, your colour of your skin, your religion, your sexuality? Absolutely not. There would be outrage. However, it is allowed, understood, and accepted for gypsies and travellers. Often, gypsies now and travellers now know their rights, and you will find them saying, "Why won't you serve me?" The police are then called, and the police do not support us. Now, there is a way, and that better way is to build the bridges between the police. Now, refusal of service is a civil affair. I understand that it's not a criminal affair. However, if the police were to turn up and have a conversation and say, actually, do you know what? It is a breach of the Equality Act. That is a civil affair and therefore not under my remit. But what I can do is I can give the manager words of advice and then I can report them to their licensing officer. If gypsies and travellers saw that happening, they would feel like it was fair play. And these licenses were pulled into question every time they refused a gypsy or traveller, maybe they would stop doing it. But that's not what happens. What happens is often the police pull up, often with snarling dogs. We've seen them turn up with snarling German shepherds, and they threaten to arrest the gypsies and travellers that are being refused service for public disorder. So that's one affair. It's quite often you will see the word Gyppo or pikey in full print. You will not see other racial slurs aimed at other minorities used as commonly as you do gypsies and travellers, and as being as acceptable. You imagine being a child at school, you're sitting in the classroom and the word pikey is used by the settled community to insult each other. So you're that old, you're sitting quietly in the back of the classroom. Maybe people don't know your ethnicity, maybe they do. I don't know. So when I was at school, the word was Gyppo. Now it's pikey, but it has the same meaning. And you will hear children say, "You're a pikey. Your mum got your trainers from Asda's. She didn't get them from the night." Now you imagine being that child. You sit there and you go, "They're not, but I am." Yeah. So then you go to the teacher and you say, "Let's use this racial slur," and the teacher says, "But they didn't use it at you, did they? And they didn't mean it like that." Okay, so you imagine you are this child. You're refused service. You're not welcome. You're othered. You go to the cinema. A group of 3 or 4 travellers go to the cinema to watch a film. You're told you're not allowed in. You're not allowed. We don't let traveller children in. You're followed around supermarkets. I don't know how they racially profile, but they do. So this is children we're talking about here. You know, we started talking about discrimination, but I'm just highlighting the effect it has on the children.
Oh my God.
So, you know, when we couple that with suicide rates, which are 11% more likely in the Gypsy and Traveller community than the wider community, and we wonder why. We wonder why our children don't want to go to school. We wonder why the suicides are getting younger and younger in the Gypsy and Traveller communities. We wonder why our children, we have to raise them with a little bit of resilience. We have to, because they would never survive as adults without that little bit of resilience. You know, it's a struggle to get a job. It's a struggle. You imagine having caravan site on your address. I spoke with Lloyd's Bank on Friday, and they said, what are the issues for Gypsies and Travellers? And I said, have you tried to get a credit card when your address says Holwell Caravan Site? Have you tried to get car insurance? We can't even get pizza delivered, let alone get a bank account or a credit card. So, you know, where do you want me to start with the discrimination? Where do you want me to end? Do you know that some travellers on local authority sites don't even have their post delivered?
That's disgusting. That's disgraceful.
Their post is collected by the warden 2 or 3 times a week and then delivered. Now, you imagine you don't even have autonomy over your own post. You're missing mental health appointments. You're missing cancer appointments. You're missing universal credit appointments. And do you think these people understand when you say, I don't have my post delivered? Why don't you have your post delivered? Because I live on a caravan site and the postman has decided that he's going to discriminate against me and he won't deliver on there.
It's absolutely ridiculous, Claire.
There are ambulances that will not go on Gypsy and Traveller sites. I can give you the hard evidence of ambulances. In Hertfordshire, we had one 2, if not 2.5 years ago. The poor paramedics had to sit outside the gate in their ambulance and watch the residents give CPR to a man who unfortunately didn't pull through because their control would not give them permission to go on. And yes, we did trace it. Yes, we did speak to the ambulance service. Yes, we did speak to the police. And none of them would acknowledge who put the red flag on. There had been no previous incidences of violence on that site. And nobody knows who put the red flag on. But we do know that a man died, the residents had to watch it, and the paramedics, no paramedic gets in an ambulance and goes to work to watch someone die 2 meters away from them, and they cannot get the ambulance.
That's ridiculous, Claire. Should we bring John in?
Yeah. John, sorry.
John, do you have anything to add, John?
Yeah, hiya, Claire. Where do I start? As Claire said, there was a situation that happened in Coventry. Same thing. A trailer went on flames, and the firemen were outside and wouldn't bring their trucks in just because they didn't want to come into the caravan site. I totally agree. Some people, when you talk about bringing food in and for delivery drivers and stuff, travelers, some of them might take the piss. And that's something that we need to change on both sides. Do you understand? Because it's not one-way traffic. So we need to show, like, listen, respect needs to work both ways, just like in these establishments and these pubs. But as Claire said, when you're growing up as a kid, not being wanted or not being allowed in these places, it's going to be very hard for me to respect you. It's very hard to me even take you serious. So when you go into these places and you get refused, I've known a few travel men that end up doing life in prison because they've got refused and it kicked off. And so their families are down the drain. His grandchildren are down the drain, all because he got refused service. And to be fair, last Friday, like I told you, I done a little rally. 10 people turned up, and I actually left there and I went with a mate of mine called Brian and a woman called Smithy. We went to the nearest pub in West Drayton, was at a corner. It was called The Berg, and we went in. They gave us 1 pint. I asked the lady, "Could you slow down the music?" Because I was speaking about what we just done about discrimination and how the councillors want to try and help us change this. And the man turned around and said, "I'm not serving you." I said, "What are you not serving us for?" "I don't have to give you a reason." I said, "I know you don't, because you're all being educated on social media due to my platform, my page. The police are telling them you don't have to give them. I've got so much evidence. If you serve them, I will not turn up to your pub. The pub watch is all the pub watch. Before you leave the pub, they've got wherever town you're going to, they ring each other by saying they're on the way to you. They're on the way to you. Who is they? These are people just trying to get on with life, just like the next person.
I agree.
Honest, by Christmas, I will make a big change with the school.
I agree.
I know.
John.
I've got a lot of things up my.
In my opinion,
I've got a lot of things that are up my sleeve, and I promise you that by Christmas it will change.
Yeah,
I agree with John. In my opinion, we need to get away from collective. The problem with Gypsies and Travellers is that we are treated as a collective.
Yeah.
Those Gypsies, those Travellers, and that even comes down to, and I agree with John, yes, there are some members of our community, like I said before, we are a microcosm of every other community, good and bad in all walks of life.
Yeah.
But there are some cheeky young teenagers that, basically need a clip up the ear roll as in our community, the same as there are in any other community. Okay. So anything that happens in any other community, you can sure as damn it happens in ours. However, where I do differ from John is we need to treat that individual for the mistakes they make. If you have any avenue, a housing estate, let's call it any avenue, and you had number 1, number 8, and number 12 had a couple of cheeky chaps in there that ordered a pizza, opened the door, shut the door, and run away with the pizza. Okay, that pizza delivery would just ban those 3 houses. It would still go to number 1, number 7, and number 11. It wouldn't treat that any avenue as a collective. Now, where do you get off doing that to my community? Because that is what you're doing. We should be treated the same as any other community, and every Gypsy site should be treated the same as any other tower block, any other cul-de-sac, or any other.
John, do you have anything further to add?
Yeah, I do. Listen, Andrew, I promise you I could go all day and tell you about what I've got and what I haven't got.
Yeah, I know.
I am going to highlight every last one of these. I've got 2 black men that work for me, and very good.
Yeah.
It's not even their community, and they're willing to help me change mine. And when they go into these places, they're like, John, I would have slapped him. I would have slapped him. How are you not allowed? How are you allowing them to call you pikeys? How are you allowing them to do this? Like, how are you allowing this to happen? I said, I have to bite my tongue because I'm trying to make a bigger difference. I'm not here to get angry with people. I'm just showing the world, like, look what we're dealing with every single day. Even my kids know in the swimming pool, we got refused. I used to play for a pub team in West Drayton. I played in the pub team for 2 years, and I had to hide my identity being a traveller because he first told me, I know what you're doing with Gypsy Traveller League. Please don't bring your people to my pub. Now, a friend of mine, he lost his friend, committed suicide, and we went to the pub. As soon as I went to the door, he said, "There you are, I can't serve you and your family." Now, I played for this man for 2 years, won every trophy in Hayes and Uxbridge County, and I still got discriminated due to me being a traveller, bringing 4 of my mates to a pub.
That's absolutely shocking. That is absolutely shocking.
It's more common than you can imagine.
Where's the newspaper once messaged me about discrimination? The discrimination, another hate crime happened in Edmonton. A young woman got ran over. Because they went from encampment from Enfield, they went to Edmonton. She got ran over. The Albanians let shots in the top of their families. They set fire to their trailers. They broke gas bottles and threw it in the top of them. Yes, the traveling men respectfully tried to save their own families. They drove on top of some of the Albanians. We don't want war in other communities, but they were put in a predicament where they had nowhere to go. They've allowed themselves to go onto the encampment where the gate was open, and that's what's happening. They end up doing life in prison, or some of their children or themselves could have died or something. Which you go on my videos, you'll see it was a bloodbath that happened, and it's not nice. So where's all these council sites? Where's all these non-negotiation sites? You do it for other communities. You're putting putting the immigrants in the hotels. You can't even give us a bit of land. If we buy land, you won't pass it. We're willing to buy land to make homes for ourselves, but we cannot allow. That's not allowed to happen because everyone goes against it being gypsies and travellers, it being their locals. And then I'm going to make it even worse while I'm going on about it. Staines Football Club, the man who owns it, his name was Joe Dixon. Last year, before I set up my 11 aside, he gave me that football club. He didn't give it to me like he signed it over. He said, JR, I will give you that club to let travellers play there. The whole of Staines locals went against it. They made him sell his club up, and he had to leave.
That's absolutely shocking.
If this happened to a black community or any other community, the newspaper would run away with the stories. It's irrelevant how many stories they would make. I've done a protest with 10 Downing Street carrying a coffin. My mistake that day was not breaking that coffin with pick handles. That's my mistake. If we could break that, that's when it hit the newspaper. Gypsies are at it again outside 10 Downing Street. Do you understand? All they could talk about was just style. So that's what the hurting part is. Honestly, it just gets frustrating.
So, John, you've touched on the sites. So, Claire, could you give our guests a brief update on the current situation with sites in the UK? So, in terms of the transit sites and obviously the permanent sites, because the majority of us do not understand the difference and would like to know more about that, please.
Okay, so you have what are called local authority sites. Local authority sites are sites that are owned usually by the county council. Well, they're actually usually owned by the borough council and then leased to the county council and managed on a county level. Okay. The problem with that is actually the majority of those sites do not have a standard tenancy. They have a tenancy underneath the Mobile Homes Act, not under the Housing Act. Okay, so that means that the local authority site is one address, okay, as opposed to individual addresses. You may have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay, but when it comes to how they're registered on the land, they're usually registered as one plot. Now, if there is a search warrant issue, for example, if you live in a tower block and there's a search warrant issued and it's issued for flat number 10, that warrant allows the police to access flat number 10, not 9, not 8, not 11, not the 4th floor, just that specific flat. It doesn't matter whether your gran lives next door, your twin brother, or your aunt, okay? They can access the property they have on that warrant. When it comes to gypsy or traveller sites, they can go on any plot because it's one address. So the warrant is a blanket warrant. So all children get turfed out of their beds. They come with armed response. So that's one act of discrimination, and that's one thing to do with local authority sites. Secondly, they often have to purchase their electricity from the landlord because they don't have a direct relationship with the supplier. So that meant that it took us nearly a year for them to get the support with the electric bills like everybody else got in the last budget, okay? And some still haven't got that. An increased amount of electric, so their electric is more expensive, okay? Secondly, they only rent the concrete. They have to rent the chalet or the caravan that is on that concrete separately. So you can split that payment under the housing element of universal credit if you speak to a caseworker that actually understands that. Most of them and don't. So that's another battle that we have to go through on a regular basis. Called transit sites. And I would argue they are not transit sites any longer. It was for a transit site that you could pull onto a transit to a nomadic, you stay there 28 days, then you pull off and you work your way up to the next transit site in the next county, pull on there. Now that's lovely in theory, but it doesn't work like that because these transit sites are not transit sites. They are holding. There are not enough local authority pitches. So you have people sitting on transit sites. Some in Hertfordshire have been on those transit sites for 15 years waiting for a pitch. That's not 28 days. Yeah. So those transit sites, they're not transit sites, they're temporary accommodation. So we do not have a functioning system of transit sites in this country.
Jeez.
Then you have private yards. These are pieces of land that people have bought to have their own. However, they come with their own issues. They have a license. If they get planning permission, they are on a license. This license dictates how many tourists you can have, how many chalets, how many people can be there, how many people can visit, whether you can or can't cut the trees. And the license is usually for the lifetime of the family that are on there. If you're lucky, sometimes it's the lifetime of the person that owns the site. And then once anything happens to them, that whole family can be evicted. Also, if you have, for example, or a son who is in a domestic violence relationship or for any known reason needs to come home, like we all do, you know, at times, children, whether they're 105 or whatever they are, they need to come home, right? They do that because that license dictates that you can only have 2 tourers and a chalet. And if you put one more tourer on there, you will all be evicted and you will lose your piece of land. So it's not just let's go and get a yard and that's me done and dusted. It doesn't work. There are huge restrictions. If you are lucky enough to get a yard, what are called unauthorized development. These are the pieces of land that people have bought that are awaiting plan. And then many more gypsies and travellers in houses, and they are the ones would argue at times more unfortunate because they are completely forgotten. Nobody ever asks if they are okay and how. So sorry,
John. No, it's all right. John, do you want to come in, mate?
Yeah. I'm just going to talk about the sites as numerous times I spoke with Claire. There's 36 council sites here in London.
Okay. Yeah.
They reckon that's 36 council sites. They reckon there's 56,000 when they done the census of gypsies and travellers in the UK. I'm not being funny. I can name 2 or 3 certain breeds where it's 56,000 travellers in their own families. Yeah. So
I wasn't.
The main thing I keep asking these people when I go to these meetings and stuff, where are you getting your numbers from?
Yeah.
Because let me tell you something. I have never registered myself as a traveller. Claire, I don't know if Claire has. None of us is registered. So how can you get these numbers? This with suicides, where everything we're dealing with councils, housing, education, where are you getting these numbers from? And that's something I spoke to Andy Slaughter, which was in the House of Commons, which Claire was there. And I asked him one question when I stood up amongst everyone. To be fair, I was nervous. Claire was telling me, JR, go up and tell them. Yeah. So I said, okay, I'll go up. So I stands up. I said, one question I want to ask you guys. All the organizations are doing what you're doing. Where are they getting the numbers from? Because not one of you have true numbers, true stats. We don't have that because we are not registered. Until we can set up a system that we can all register as gypsies or Roma or travellers, then we will have in each borough numbers. Do you understand? And then they have to give us housing. They have to give us more sites. They have to give us more.
JR is completely right. He is entirely right, about registering. However, that said, I must say that unless you know what Operation Lincoln was Churchill. If Hitler had have got in a boat, or any German troop had have got in a boat and come across that channel, I would not be here.
Yeah.
Because all Romany gypsies and travellers were on a list, and it was agreed by Parliament in World War II that the minute the Nazis were coming, we would have been the first ones handed over.
Yeah.
Now, in the Roma Holocaust, thousands, if not millions, of Roma were annihilated. And yes, wasn't the same numbers as the Jews, but when you look at the percentage of the population, 81% of European Romans were annihilated in the pogroms under the Nazis. Okay, and actually, it all started in 1933 in Nuremberg, and the first law passed before we even got to Auschwitz was against gypsies and travellers. It was against gypsies, and it said that it made it illegal for any white person to marry the non-white gypsy.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's the very beginning and the trial to see whether the Nazis could up the ante with the Nuremberg laws. And they did up the antes. So when it comes to gypsies and travellers declaring their ethnicity, we have to take a historical look. Yeah. And when you look back to Ireland and you look back to when the English landlords came in and famine, that's the reason why Irish travellers are reluctant to register. So yes, right. Without the figures, we don't have the data to argue. But that's why the community is so reluctant. If you knew the gypsies and travellers hide their identity, you would be surprised. You know, I know by people's surnames. We know, JR knows. I can spot my own across tube station, right? And then into places.
I can smell mine. I can smell mine.
You can, can't you, JR?
Yeah. You lot are funny, man. No, but I guess, you know, in terms of the sites, we can want to now move on to the Police Act. So, JR, could you give us in your own words what the Police Act is and how it impacts the Gypsy, Roma and Traveller communities moving forward, please?
To be fair, a lot of things I've been dealing with, I've been actually ringing Claire because she's been in the system for a long time. I'm a young lad that came from all different walks of life growing up. And for the last 2 years, I've been trying. I'm actually even sitting in the office. I never thought a traveling man would be in the office working. You understand? So if I can do it, I'm sure to God there's a lot of our traveling men and gypsy men can do the same, you know? So it's just trying to, our people are clever people. The young lads are really clever kids, but it's just channeling their ego and their motivation down the right roads for them. And that's what it's come down to. It's getting very hard for travelers, because even when you go out to get a job, once they hear your voice as a traveler, they're not giving you that job due to social media, due to you. So how you feed your children? And you wonder why that a lot of our people are getting arrested for stupid crimes, because we're not giving the same opportunities as the next person.
Yeah. Thank you for that, John.
To be fair, I've got a lot of messages and footage of police using their powers in the wrong way, and I've got a lot of footage which is going to be going very soon. I've also got them attacking a traveling boy with autism and an old lady in Kent, and this was like 5 months ago. And I've just been caught up on what work I'm doing, and I haven't.
So the Police Crime Sentencing and Courts Act came into fruition in 2022. It has many limitations for the right to protest, all sorts, but the specific the impacts on gypsies and travellers is Section 4 moves trespass from a civil offence to a criminal offence. There are 4 sanctions attached to this criminal offence, one being 6 months in prison, the other a £2,500 fine, the other a confiscation of all vehicles, and the 12-month banning order. It's 4. The 12-month banning order is immediately in place once you are served a direction to leave. Now, the issue is the criteria to move someone is likelihood to commit significant damage or the likelihood to commit significant disruption. Now, who defines the likelihood to? What does it actually mean? That means it is at the discretion of the officer there and then. And they can say, for example, I think that if you are on this field, you are going to disrupt someone that wants to walk a dog. Therefore, that gives me enough jurisdiction to serve you with a Section 61 notice, which is a direction to leave. We are seeing those Section 61 notices being served within 2 hours. Now, I could not get my trailer onto a campsite, unload it, unpack everything, put the leg down, get the step out, all of that, get the gas bottle out, load it up, and feed my children, and pack it all up and leave within 2 hours. I could not feasibly do it. Okay, so where are you expecting these people that are living nomadic to feed their children? We are asking for a place to. All of our traditional stopping places have been bolded up. All of the lay-bys on the side of the road, all of the farmers' gateways, these have been taken from us. This is why they are on your playing field, because they didn't used to be. They used to be down the back lane in the lay-by that they always. And travellers have a set route, and they have probably been travelling that set route for hundreds of years. They are not new to your town. They have been in and out of your for generations. So, all of these things need to be taken into account, okay? So when it comes to the police crime sentencing, it is not illegal to live nomadically. It is illegal to trespass with a vehicle or anything that has a chassis. That's the definition. So that includes a wagon, a horse-drawn wagon. It could even include a bike and a tent. It has to be a vehicle with, okay? That's the definition. And it can be 1 or it can be 25. They've also removed the need to do a welfare check before they serve a section direction to leave. Okay, so they don't need to check whether there's anyone vulnerable and whether there's anyone disabled, whether there's a woman that's just about to give birth. None of that is relevant anymore. We've served you 61. You have 2 hours to go. If you do not go, everyone over the age of 18 in this encampment will be arrested. Now, let's play devil's advocate. Let's play worst case scenario, okay? If we start seeing, and we will eventually, we haven't so much yet. We've seen 1 or 2 arrested, but that's usually for public disorder because they're in perhaps frustration and frustration. I mean, I can't frame it any other way. We haven't seen anyone arrested. When we do, right? This was my argument from the start, okay? In a housing crisis, where are you going to put these families? Bearing in mind, ONS says that the average family size for Gypsies and Travellers is 7.7 children. Does your council, okay, if you have an encampment of 6 caravans, you do the maths, 7 times 6 is 42. Can your council house 42 children in half an hour? Because that's what you do. Do you have enough temporary accommodation to put all of these women and children in if you are going to confiscate the caravans? We have a social services crisis. Where are you going to put these if you take all the adults away? In Essex, we don't have any foster homes. No county council own no foster homes. They are all private. Where are you planning on putting all of these people? So this stick that you are beating us with, when we get fed up and we go, actually, okay, enough's enough. We've been run up and down the roads forever now. Now let's see what sanctions you're going to give us. So when you arrest these people and you put them in prison for 6 months, I would argue, you know, we have the prisons are overcrowded. The court, the last time I checked, the Crown Court was 63,000 because of COVID. Right. Courts are up against the cosh. The prisons are up against the cosh. We have no houses. We are in a housing crisis. We have no social services. And yet you have put all of these sanctions in place with no thought.
Exactly. It's absolutely ridiculous, Claire. Thank you. John, do you want to come in, mate?
Yeah, Claire said no one's been arrested. 2 young lads from my football team only last week, they moved to Surrey because they had to leave because of what happened in Edmonton. So they left Enfield, they came to Surrey. They landed in Surrey and straight away the police came and arrested 2 of the lads. So the other families with their caravans left. Now I had one of their family members ring me saying, JR, have you got someone just to move their caravans off this field? I was in Southampton at the time, and I did try to make a few phone calls, which I did end up getting it sorted for them. So the principle is, they were happy to arrest these 2 young lads. Their their kids were there in the caravan, couldn't drive, couldn't get out that field, didn't know where to go, and they rang my phone. So yes, I'd be honest, a lot of gypsies and travelers do ring my phone every day, which I've said to Claire, is so much I can do in the office with 3 man up, especially that we're still only an organisation that we're taking baby steps. Yeah, but we're taking baby steps in the office, but to our community, we're taking a big steps because they know if they ring us, it will get sorted and we will go there. Which I've been numerous occasions, left my office and went to encampments, spoke to the police, and got a lot of advice of Claire. How do I approach these people? What do I say to these people? Do you remember? I'm only new to what I'm trying to do. So I'm learning every single day and getting educated while I go. But these 2 young lads play for my football team. I actually turned around and said that they want to get rid of their caravans because in the space of 2 months, they could have been in at least 30 different counties. And they were waiting there for 2 days max. And then 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, the police is coming and tell them they have to leave. You don't want no one to come to your house when your children are asleep and being petrified 2 or 3 in the morning.
And you know what? Yeah. So these 2 lads, right? They're considering giving up their caravans. So they're considering changing their. It's risk for mental health for a start, because you're asking a family to move into an alien environment. Okay, they've been nomadic, they've been an family, they're not used to being in bricks and mortar, and then you're just gonna basically like remove them from the extended family, from their lifestyle, and put them in an alien environment. That's a huge risk. But secondly, let's face the reality. Okay, let's again play devil's advocate. Now, Andrea, I know you do a lot of advocacy for homeless people. Okay, so you've now got a family turn up on your doorstep that say, we don't want that caravan anymore, we want housing. Okay, so we take them down to the council, and the council says, our borough for 5. No. Okay, all right then. So how are you homeless? Well, I've decided that I don't want to live in my caravan anymore. Okay, so you've made yourself voluntarily homeless, have you?
Oh, so is that how they're getting people? So is that how they're getting people? That if people want to move from a caravan to a house, that they're trying to make out that they're intentionally homeless if they want to leave the caravan? Wow, that's ridiculous.
So that's where you're going with this. So for 56. We will house you to find out whether we have a duty of care to continue. But then you're not hitting the elements. You've got no locality element. You've made yourself voluntarily homeless. Can you prove your identity? Well, maybe not. Okay. Can you prove your previous addresses? No. Have you got any form of money, cash, bank accounts? Probably. Well, probably not. Who knows? So there's all of that going on. So actually, it's not just as simple as most people say, right? Okay, I mean, I don't believe that people that are living nomadically should be made to stop. But let's be advocate, right? The government doesn't want people to live nomadically. Okay, where are we going to put them? How are they going to hit the locality element? How are they going to hit the fact that they haven't made themselves voluntarily homeless? Are you going to give them permission for yards? Are you going to provide more local authority sites? What are we doing here? You've created this great big mess with no solution, no alternative, nothing.
Thank you, Claire. John, do you want to jump back in, mate?
Yeah, and also, as Claire said, they say you have to be 5 years in the borough before you can try to get a council house. These people are moving from pillar to post every single day.
Exactly.
These people actually even told me they were happy to go into housing. They are happy to go into housing, but they're not given housing. I'm not going to say certain names on here, but there's one of the councils they housed. They didn't house. They gave them a little bit of a ground to so their two families could stay. They were 2 weeks waiting for toilets. They're ringing my phone saying, "JR, like, please, can you help me? We're 2 weeks looking for Portaloos." The woman is messaging me back saying the people from Portaloos don't want to go into that encampment because what happened to Edmonton. I'm not being funny. What happened to Edmonton is irrelevant. What happens in Enfield or any other town, that's irrelevant. So these people are just asking for toilets just to feel like they can use a bathroom. Do you understand? And I get on my social media page every day. They throw rubbish here. They tip here. Yes, they do. I don't disagree on that. But if if they bring that rubbish to the tip yard, they are not allowed to bring that rubbish in.
Yeah. They're not allowed to.
When you're in a council house, you got tenants. I think you're allowed three times in a year. You're entitled to bring rubbish to the tip yard, which I believe if you have a tenancy reform, for example, whatever borough you're from. If they went to the tip yard with their rubbish, they're not going to do nothing for them.
You're not allowed to use.
Where is the solution? I mean, Claire keep banging our heads against the wall.
We're gonna have to come. We're gonna have to sit down together. We're gonna have to sit down together and come up with some.
Yeah, JR's 100% right. They don't let use the tips. But again, this point he's making about the negotiated stopping policy, or the family that have been allowed to negotiate stop in Enfield and not having the Portaloos, we go back to this collective blame. We don't want there to see Mrs. Smith because Mr. McGarvey up in Edmonton kicked off. Well,
it's ridiculous.
Can you imagine? You live in Wandsworth, okay? And I said, Andrea, I can't come and deliver pizza to you, okay? Because someone who lived in Edmonton misbehaved.
Absolutely ridiculous. It just wouldn't run in Wandsworth like that, to be fair. It's absolutely disgraceful.
So guys, that is a negotiated stopping policy. Sorry, Andrea, just quickly, I just want to there is a solution. And the solution is the negotiated stopping policy. It was championed by Leedsgate, and the policy is, right, we at Gate Hearts advocate a bespoke policy, okay? And I'll explain why. But in the roughly and quickly, the policy is that a council, it's usually at a borough level because it's easier to handle, that a council find a scrap piece of land, a car park that's not being used, a piece of land that's not being used, a piece of land that they've got put to one side that's earmarked for development at some point in time, something, okay? They find a piece of land and they can redirect an unauthorized encampment to this, over to this piece of land. They can then negotiate how long they stay and under what conditions and what expectations they expect. That's the simple way.
Thank you, Claire. And I guess the final sort of thoughts on this is how do non-travellers get involved with fighting against the Police Act? So would it be in terms of turning up to public meetings? Please tell us, how can we get involved in this fight to end it?
All of that, raise awareness, talk about it on Twitter, talk about it on your social media, talk about it down the pub. Actually, look at the police crime sentencing bill. It came through so rapidly. Read it. Read how it read how it affects everyone else, and just be honest. You know, just look at it and see how it works. Because we'll do eventually. You know, as soon as they've finished Gypsies and Travellers, this criminalising trespass up. And when it opens up, the next people they're going through are the boaters, and then they're going for protesters.
And then last point from you, John. Go on, John.
Yeah, my last topic I want to talk about is there was a travelling man. He fought in the war. His name is Bernie Mungan. Over being a traveller, I know his family personally. He was murdered in the barracks. He was murdered in the barracks. Yeah, he was 3 weeks lying in the barracks before he was reported. Yeah.
Oh.
Now I know in the prison system, you eat, you sleep, you shit every minute of the day. They know where you are. And I'm sure to God, in them barracks or in them army places, it's the same thing. You eat, you sleep, you do every single thing. Your routines are the same. Why have they covered up the murder of this traveling man? And now I'm going to bring another scenario. Another traveling man. He goes to a holiday park with his family and kids, and also was murdered in there. And
I heard about that one. It's absolutely disgraceful.
He's only 1 year dead. He's 1 year dead last week. God rest him. And God this is what we're dealing with. Yeah, and if this was any other culture, it would be all over the headlines, all over the paper.
Yeah.
And that's what the frustrating part is on our end, is how's people not seeing this? How is people not talking about this? Why ain't there something being done about this?
Yeah.
Because we don't care.
It's absolutely disgraceful that these murders have, just not even, we haven't even heard about these murders on the news. I haven't heard of these murders on the news. I've heard of the murders like through the Gypsy Travellers that I work with. But I would like to thank you both for joining me today. It's been a really insightful conversation, and the link's going to be shared. You can share it wherever you want to share it, and this will be the first of many meetings that we have together moving forward now, and we're going to continue fighting for Gypsy Roma Travellers across the country and even across the world, for God's sake, because it needs to happen. So thank you both again, and looking forward to catching up with you again at some point. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you very much.
No problem. Take care. Enjoy your weekend.
And you.
Thank you.